I only meant to surprise my husband with a quiet night at home. Until I heard a woman laughing upstairs. The sound stopped me cold the second I stepped inside the house. I stood near the front door holding a paper bag of takeout in one hand and Jake's favorite cheesecake in the other. Rain dripped from my coat onto the hardwood floor, while my heart suddenly beat harder for reasons I didn't understand yet. A woman was upstairs, laughing. Not the sound of a television, not a phone call. Real laughter. Soft, comfortable, familiar. For a second, I convinced myself I was imagining it. Then I heard Jake laugh too. My stomach dropped instantly. The house smelled like his cologne and fresh coffee, warm and normal, but suddenly nothing felt normal anymore. I slowly placed the takeout bag on the kitchen counter without making noise. My mind raced through possible explanations. Maybe his sister stopped by. Maybe a coworker needed help with something. But deep down, fear had already entered the room. Jake wasn't supposed to be home yet. He told me he had a late meeting downtown. That was why I planned the surprise in the first place. We'd barely seen each other the past few weeks. Between my hospital shifts and his construction projects, our marriage had started feeling rushed and distant. So I left work early, bought dinner from his favorite Italian place, even wore the blue sweater he once told me made my eyes look brighter. I wanted one good night together. Now I stood frozen in our kitchen listening to another woman laugh upstairs. The sound came again, followed by footsteps. I looked toward the staircase. Part of me wanted to walk out immediately before I saw something I couldn't forget. But another part needed answers. I moved slowly toward the stairs, trying to stay quiet. Every step felt heavier than the last. My chest tightened so badly it almost hurt to breathe. Then I heard the woman speak. "Oh my God, Jake, stop," she said between laughs. Silence followed. My vision blurred slightly. That one sentence shattered every calm thought left in my head. I gripped the stair railing tightly and climbed faster. The hallway upstairs was dim except for the bedroom light spilling onto the carpet. The bedroom door stood partly open. And then Jake appeared. He stepped into the hallway suddenly, stopping the second he saw me. All color disappeared from his face. "Emma?" The way he said my name, shocked, nervous, guilty, made my heart sink instantly. I stared at him. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, his hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it, and behind him, I could still hear movement inside our bedroom. Our bedroom? I felt physically sick. Jake stepped forward quickly. "What are you doing home?" The question almost made me laugh. "What am I doing home?" I repeated quietly. His eyes darted toward the bedroom behind him for half a second. That tiny movement destroyed me more than anything else, because it looked exactly like panic. I folded my arms tightly across my chest, trying to stop myself from shaking. "You said you had a meeting." "I did," he replied too fast. Another lie. I could feel it. A woman suddenly appeared behind him. She was younger than me, maybe early 30s, long brown hair tied into a loose ponytail, oversized gray sweatshirt, nervous expression. The second she saw me, she froze too. And then nobody spoke. The silence stretched painfully between the three of us. My eyes moved from her to Jake and back again. I didn't recognize her. That hurt more somehow. If this had been an old friend or coworker I knew, maybe I could have understood it differently. But she looked comfortable standing in my house. Comfortable near my husband. Jake rubbed his forehead anxiously. "Emma, this isn't what it looks like." Every cheating story begins with those words. The woman looked embarrassed immediately. "I should probably leave." "No," I snapped before she could move. Both of them looked at me. No one's leaving until somebody explains why there's a strange woman in my bedroom. Jake opened his mouth but hesitated. That hesitation felt like a knife. "How long?" I whispered. His face tightened. "What?" "How long has this been happening?" "Emma, listen to me. Answer me." The anger finally broke through the heartbreak in my voice. Jake stepped closer carefully, like approaching something fragile. "There's nothing going on." I laughed bitterly. "You're lying." "I'm not." "Then why are you hiding her in our house?" The woman suddenly spoke quietly. "He wasn't hiding me." I turned toward her sharply. "Then explain it." She looked at Jake first, almost asking permission. That made me even angrier. Jake sighed heavily. "Emma. Her name is Rachel. I didn't care about her name." "And?" Rachel crossed her arms awkwardly. "I'm Jake's sister." The words hit me so unexpectedly that my brain struggled to process them. "What?" Jake looked exhausted suddenly. Half-sister. We found each other 3 months ago. I stared at him in disbelief. That's impossible. It's true, Rachel said softly. Our father had another family before Jake was born. The hallway suddenly felt too small. Jake ran a hand through his hair again. I didn't know how to tell you. I looked at him, trying to understand what I was hearing. Jake's father died years ago. As far as I knew, there were no secrets left in that family. No hidden relatives. No mystery siblings. Yet here stood a woman inside my home who looked terrified and strangely emotional at the same time. You expect me to believe this? I asked quietly. Rachel reached slowly into her pocket and pulled out an old photograph. She handed it to me carefully. My stomach tightened when I saw it. A much younger version of Jake's father stood smiling beside a woman holding a little girl with familiar eyes. Rachel's eyes. I found him through a DNA website, Rachel explained gently. I wasn't trying to cause problems. I just wanted answers about my family. I looked at Jake. Why didn't you tell me? His expression broke slightly. Because every time I tried, it felt insane. I shook my head slowly. Emotions crashing into each other inside me. Relief. Anger. Confusion. Pain. You let me walk into this thinking you were cheating on me. Jake's eyes filled with guilt instantly. I know. And the laughing? Rachel actually smiled faintly through the tension. Jake accidentally spilled coffee all over himself trying to cook dinner. I looked at his stained shirt sleeve for the first time. He really had. The anger inside me weakened slightly, replaced by exhaustion. Jake stepped closer again, softer this time. I wanted to tell you tonight. I just didn't expect me to hear another woman upstairs. I finished. He nodded once. The truth settled slowly between us. But so did something else. A realization. This whole disaster happened because secrets grow heavier the longer people carry them alone. And standing there in my hallway, heart still racing from fear and heartbreak, I realized how quickly love can turn into panic when trust disappears for even one moment. I stood in the hallway gripping the old photograph while rain tapped softly against the bedroom windows behind us. My emotions were still spinning so fast I could barely think clearly. Jake had a sister. A secret sister. And somehow that truth felt almost as overwhelming as the fear I walked into minutes earlier. Rachel stood quietly near the bedroom door, clearly uncomfortable. Jake looked emotionally drained, like he had been carrying this secret for weeks without sleep. You should have told me, I said again, softer this time. I know, Jake replied immediately. I was trying to figure out how. I looked down at the photograph once more. Rachel really did resemble him now that I saw it. Same eyes, same smile. But the hurt inside me didn't disappear that easily. Because for a few terrible minutes, I truly believed my marriage was ending. Rachel slowly crossed her arms. I can leave if you want. No, I said quickly, surprising even myself. She looked at me carefully. I let out a tired breath and rubbed my forehead. I just need to understand, Jake nodded. That's fair. We moved downstairs to the living room. The takeout food still sat untouched on the kitchen counter, forgotten during all the chaos. The house felt strangely quiet now except for the storm outside. Rachel sat carefully on the edge of the couch, while Jake stayed standing near the fireplace, like he didn't deserve to relax yet. I sat across from them holding a cup of tea, mostly for something to do with my hands. So start from the beginning, I said. Jake looked toward Rachel before speaking. About 4 months ago, I got an email from someone claiming to be related to me. Rachel gave a small nod. That someone was me. I stayed silent. I thought it was fake at first, Jake admitted. Some kind of scam. But then she sent photos of our father. He paused briefly. Photos I'd never seen before. Rachel looked down at her hands. My mom passed away last year. While going through her things, I found letters and old pictures. That's when I learned the truth. The sadness in her voice felt real. She never told you? I asked gently. Rachel shook her head. She said she was afraid it would destroy 2 families. Jake leaned against the fireplace with his arms crossed tightly. At first, I didn't even want to meet her. Rachel laughed quietly, though there was pain behind it. He hung up on me twice. Jake gave a guilty smile. Despite everything, That small moment eased some of the tension in the room. But eventually we met for coffee, Jake continued. And after 5 minutes it was obvious. Obvious? I asked. Rachel smiled faintly. We both order pancakes at 4 in the afternoon. Jake added quietly, and we both hate mustard for no reason. I couldn't help smiling a little. Family has strange ways of revealing itself sometimes. Still, one question remained heavy in my chest. Why keep it from me? Jake's expression darkened again. Because my father lied to my mother for years, he admitted. And after learning all this, I started questioning everything about him. I listened carefully. He cheated, Jake continued quietly. He had another relationship before I was born. Rachel's mother didn't even know about us. Rachel nodded sadly. And suddenly, Jake said, the man I spent my whole life respecting didn't feel real anymore. The room fell silent. I looked at my husband differently in that moment. Not guilty. Not dishonest. Lost. This whole thing messed with my head, he admitted. I didn't know how to talk about it without feeling ashamed of something I didn't even do. Rachel looked toward me gently. He talks about you constantly, by the way. Jake immediately looked embarrassed. Rachel, no, seriously, she continued with a small smile. I've known him 3 months, and I think I knew your coffee order by day 2. I blinked in surprise. He loves you, she said simply. Jake looked down at the floor quietly, and suddenly the anger I'd been holding began to soften into something sadder. Fear. He wasn't hiding another woman because he wanted someone else. He was hiding pain because he didn't know how to share it. I looked at him carefully. You really thought I'd leave because your father made mistakes? No, he admitted softly. I thought you'd see me differently. The honesty in his voice hurt. I stood slowly and walked toward the kitchen window. Rain still covered the glass, blurring the lights outside. When I heard Rachel laughing upstairs, I said quietly, I thought everything we built together was fake. Jake's voice came immediately behind me. Emma, I know it wasn't, I interrupted softly, but that fear felt real. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Jake moved closer carefully. I'm sorry, I turned toward him. And for the first time since walking into the house, I saw tears in his eyes. Not dramatic tears, just exhaustion, regret, emotion finally breaking through. I should have trusted you enough to tell you the truth, he whispered. I nodded slowly. Yes, you should have. Rachel quietly stood from the couch. I think this is my cue to disappear. Jake wiped his face quickly. You don't have to go, she smiled gently. You two need this moment more than I need awkward family tea. For the first time all night, I laughed softly. Rachel grabbed her coat and paused near the front door before turning back toward me. I know tonight was awful, she said sincerely. But for what it's worth, your husband never stopped talking about how lucky he feels to have you. Then she left. The house grew quiet again. Jake and I stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by cold takeout food, emotional exhaustion, and the remains of one terrible misunderstanding. I ruined your surprise night, didn't I? He asked weakly. I glanced toward the untouched cheesecake on the counter. Completely. He gave a guilty smile. I stared at him for a long moment before finally stepping closer. You scared me, I admitted. I know. I thought I lost you. Jake's face softened instantly. Never. The answer came without hesitation. And somehow that mattered more than anything else. I leaned against his chest slowly, feeling his arms wrap carefully around me like he was afraid I might still pull away. Outside, the storm finally began to calm. And standing there in our kitchen, I realized something important. Love doesn't survive because people never make mistakes. It survives because eventually, they stop hiding from each other long enough to tell the truth.